José Ángel Acevedo. Saludos amigos de tampahoy.com, mi nombre es José Ángel Acevedo y estamos aquí conectándonos con ustedes porque ahora en cuestión de unos segundos va a iniciar esta conferencia de prensa del gobernador Ron DeSantis desde la Escuela Superior en Titusville. Mi nombre es José Ángel Acevedo y estoy aquí con ustedes desde nuestro sede en tampahoy.com, en el centro de la ciudad de Tampa. Y como pudimos ver en estos momentos, ya estamos a punto de iniciar esta conferencia de prensa que va a ofrecer el gobernador Ron DeSantis desde la Escuela Superior en Titusville. Así que vamos a ver esta conferencia de prensa en unos segundos. Ya vimos que entraron las personas que van a estar acompañando al gobernador Ron DeSantis en este lugar. Bueno, y por aquí estamos conectados a través de tampahoy.com. Estoy completamente en vivo. Los quiero invitar a que nos envíen sus comentarios a través de nuestras plataformas digitales. Estamos en vivo a través de YouTube, estamos en vivo también a través de Instagram y de todas las otras plataformas también. Si no tienes la aplicación móvil de WFLA, este es el momento para que la bajes antes de que empiece la conferencia de prensa del gobernador Ron DeSantis en Titusville, en esta escuela superior de Titusville, que en el día de hoy va a estar hablando sobre un tema que todavía no nos han dicho en los emails que enviaron de convocatoria para los medios. Lo único que menciona es gobernador Ron DeSantis va a presentar una conferencia de prensa en Titusville el martes 17 de febrero en la mañana. Todos los medios tenían que pedir su acreditación para poder ser parte de este evento y poder escuchar la información que el gobernador Ron DeSantis va a estar ofreciéndole a todo el estado de Florida desde esta escuela en Titusville. Durante la mañana de hoy estamos escuchando eh, muchas informaciones a través de nuestras plataformas, así que los invito a que nos visiten en nuestras plataformas digitales de tampahoy.com y nos sigan también si no nos siguen todavía, y si nos estás viendo por primera vez en las plataformas, ya quiero que sepan que esto es una conversación de ahora en adelante completamente para que ustedes se comuniquen conmigo y me digan qué es lo que están pensando de todo lo que dicen nuestros líderes políticos. Así que, chicos, estamos aquí a través de nuestras plataformas digitales y para mí es un placer poder iniciar esta mañana del martes con todos ustedes a través de nuestras plataformas. Aquí estoy viendo que muchas personas se están conectando a través de YouTube, así que saludos a nuestros amigos de YouTube y también a quienes se nos están acomodando también a través de nuestras plataformas de Instagram. Por aquí estoy mirando a nuestros amigos de Instagram desde mi celular, así que estoy pendiente a todos sus mensajes. Vamos a estar aquí comentando sobre qué es lo que el gobernador Ron DeSantis va a estar platicando en esta conferencia de prensa que va a iniciar en cualquier momento. Y como vimos hace unos minutos, ya pudimos ver que las personas que van a estar acompañándolo están ya en este lugar. Así que vamos a ver qué está pasando por aquí, así que estamos completamente en vivo. Vas a verme aquí por un buen ratito. Si no me escuchas, estoy con ustedes, pero hay que seguir informando y escribiendo otras noticias mientras escuchamos también lo que diga el gobernador Ron DeSantis en esta conferencia de prensa que va a iniciar en cualquier momento. Y como les vuelvo a mencionar, esta conferencia de prensa está ocurriendo desde una escuela superior de Titusville, la Escuela Superior Titusville. Así que estamos viendo a través de tampahoy.com imágenes desde el lugar donde el gobernador Ron DeSantis va a estar ofreciendo próximamente detalles sobre algunas de sus iniciativas. Eh, Así que ahí estamos viendo que está entrando el gobernador Ron DeSantis en estos momentos a el lugar donde va a estar hablando en la
Thank
mañana de
you.
hoy.
Thanks so much. It's great to be back in Titusville. Well, please have a seat. Please have a seat.
Les está pidiendo que
Pleased to be
que
joined
tomen
today by
asiento.
our fearless Commissioner of Education, Stasi
Podemos ver
Cruzes. We also have
que el letrero que menciona al frente de él dice Workforce Education. Así que creo que va a estar presentando un nuevo equipo para la educación. Vamos a escuchar qué dice el gobernador Ron DeSantis en esta conferencia de prensa.
That goes on, obviously, that we deal with at the state. There's a lot of stuff going on in the country. But some of the things that are the most important is what are we doing to make sure that our young people have the tools they need to make the most of their God-given ability when they leave our school system. And so when I became governor,
Le está diciendo que quiere tomar en retrospectiva qué es lo que están haciendo los estudiantes una vez van a salir del sistema educativo del, del Estado.
In order to do that. And so that's one way you can be successful. And we're proud of our university system, which is ranked #1 in America. The day I took office until now, obviously you look around the country, we've had a period for the U.S. economy of very, very high inflation, right? Groceries, all this stuff over 4 or 5 years. The tuition for Florida residents is the same today as the day I took office, lowest in the country.
Él dice que desde que inició su mandato en el gobierno de Florida, los costos han sido muy bajos en la educación, pero
for people that have vocational training, skills-based education, to be able to get certified in high school. Maybe you go to state college for a year or two. Maybe you don't even need that, and you're already doing. I know there have been people from Brevard Public Schools who've been hired by Elon Musk at SpaceX right when they graduate.
él menciona que muchos de los estudiantes salen muy exitosos y que muchos de ellos pues terminan siendo contratados por grandes compañías como en este caso la de Elon Musk para SpaceX. Y hizo referencia a unos estudiantes de la escuela de Brevard.
I remember when I graduated, I played baseball. I grew up in Florida, played baseball for Yale, and the degree was in Latin. I'm like, well, who the hell knows what this degree even is? I worked this hard to get it. No one could even read it in my office. But this piece of paper is not the end-all, be-all, right? It's, kind of what are you actually learning, and how is that going to apply when you get out of school? And I just saw so many universities just dropping the ball with kind of political agendas, mushy courses, and all these other things. Look, if you're going to get a degree in engineering from MIT and you go into debt, you're going to be okay. That's just the reality. So I'm not saying some of these, even going into debt on any of these programs necessarily is bad. There's obviously some that it would make sense. But there's so many colleges, particularly third or fourth tier private universities.
Él está hablando sobre las diferentes ofertas de universidades que hay para los estudiantes.
jobs they could have had out of high school. Well, how is that doing well by those students? And so we said, but part of it was there was just a stigma that I think had been created over years that somehow you're somehow not as good because you're going vocational versus going to university. And I'll tell you, there's people that graduate high school in Florida, that come out of our state colleges. They're involved in HVAC, they're involved in electrical, they're involved in these things. They're working for a couple years, making good money, and then they start their own business.
El gobernador está hablando en estos momentos de estos estudiantes que toman la decisión de irse por un lugar vocacional en vez de irse a la universidad. Y sin embargo, él está mencionando que muchos de ellos hacen mucho dinero durante el tiempo que llevan fuera después de salir de la escuela de forma vocacional y que ese dinero que ellos llegan creando, esa capital que ellos crean, pues los ha llevado a crear grandes compañías que en el día de hoy son exitosas aquí en nuestro estado de Florida. Entonces ahora está diciendo que están siendo ambiciosos con un nuevo proyecto en el que están brindando un workforce education. Es como un equipo que se va a enfocar en esto y va a ser el número uno en toda la nación, dice el gobernador Ron DeSantis. Esa es su iniciativa y es lo que está esperando poder lograr con esto que está presentando en el día de hoy desde la Escuela Superior de Titusville.
We rank number one in public higher education 9 years running. We're ranked number one in 2-year college graduation rates, number one for lowest tuition and fees, number one in education freedom for the 4th consecutive year in a row. If you look at that executive order that I did back in 2019, and you look at all the bullets, every single bullet has been achieved. And these are things that are really significant and that are making a really, really big impact. And look, I'm not anyone that, believes that money necessarily equals education outcomes. You have some of the worst schools in this country, like Washington, D.C., in Chicago. You look at how much money goes into that. It's feeding the bureaucracy. It's not educating students, and that's why they have failed schools. Meanwhile, like in Washington, D.C., I remember back in the day, Congress did the opportunity scholarships and charter, and the kids that were able to go there, they did well. But when they were caught up in the bureaucracies, they didn't. So there's some bureaucracies around this country that are not serving students well. So I've never said that D.C. spends more, then they must be doing better, because that clearly isn't the case. At the same time, you do need to provide the tools, and that's not something that necessarily grows on trees. You do have to show a financial commitment to these programs and to this vision. And I'm pleased to say that since 2019, we have committed more than $12 billion to workforce education. To put that in perspective, that's more than anyone else has done by a country.
El gobernador acaba de decir que el Estado ha invertido más de 12 millones en este tipo de iniciativa de workforce education.
And nearly 512,000 post-secondary CTE students. That's a 30% increase from where we were 7 years ago. And we did at the little hold room there when I was meeting with the participants was the culinary program that they have. These kids were baking this stuff, and I had it, and it was good. And I probably shouldn't have had it, but you got to live you live once. So we're doing it. And you have all these different things, and those are really good. Great programs where you're getting hands-on skills, which makes it really, really good. Now, we have grown our integrated education and training programs to a record 582 statewide. That's more than 11,000 students just in the last 5 years, providing adult learners the opportunity to earn credentials while completing their high school diploma. I'm a big believer in there's certain value that can be had by sitting at a desk and listening to somebody instruct you. Obviously, to a certain extent, that's inevitable. That's going to be part of education. But I really believe you can learn by doing. And so we have really put forward an emphasis on apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs. And we've now reached a historic milestone there. 25,000 active participants statewide right now in apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs. That's an 11% increase year over year, and we've had a huge increase over the last 7 years. This allows our students to actually get on the job training and learn. And you know what? If you're in this position, you're in high school, you're showing you can do it, the best thing an employer is going to look for is, can you do the job? If you have a resume and all the education, that's an indicator if you can do the job. But if you're actually showing you can do the job, that's the best evidence there is. And so it's giving our students a huge advantage to be able to get a foothold in the workforce. Since its inception, our workforce
Esta nueva iniciativa, según lo que el gobernador Ron DeSantis está hablando en esta conferencia de prensa, va a poder brindarle oportunidad a miles de personas que inician su carrera de manera vocacional también, distintas formas para ayudar a estos jóvenes que salen de la escuela y literalmente van en busca de un nuevo empleo. Y bueno, esa es la realidad que estamos viviendo en estos días, en la que muchas personas pues han tenido que dejar también los estudios para irse a trabajar, para poder salir adelante junto a sus familias. Así que me gustaría saber, a través de nuestras plataformas digitales, cualquier persona que nos está viendo, qué piensan sobre esta nueva iniciativa que está presentando el gobernador Ron DeSantis, en la que está mencionando sobre nuevos beneficios, ¿no? Una nueva iniciativa para ayudar a estos jóvenes que salen de la escuela y que están listos para trabajar. Así que básicamente el gobernador, como mencionó, él quiere que el estado de Florida, tal como ellos tienen, el estado de Florida es el estado número 1 en la educación. Él quiere que también sea el número 1 en brindar empleos a esas personas que salen de la escuela y están listos para trabajar. Así que vamos a seguir escuchando la conferencia de prensa del gobernador Ron DeSantis y también sus expresiones sobre esta nueva iniciativa que pretende brindar ayuda a muchas personas y que yo creo que también podría ayudar en la economía local. Pero para eso tendríamos que seguir estudiando esta iniciativa y eso es una de las asignaciones que voy a estar realizando porque me gustaría saber qué está sucediendo con nuestros jóvenes en la Bahía de Tampa. ¿Están yendo a trabajar luego que salen de estudiar o están literalmente trabajando y poniendo al lado los estudios? ¿O qué está pasando? Realmente esto es una de las preguntas que me estoy haciendo con esta conferencia de prensa y es algo que me gustaría saber cómo la comunidad de la Bahía de Tampa se va a estar beneficiando sobre esto y también en distintas comunidades de nuestro estado. Así que como ustedes escucharon, el gobernador Ron DeSantis está presentando una nueva iniciativa para la fuerza laboral en Florida. Esto significa que esta nueva estrategia de educación pretende preparar a todos estos estudiantes antes de que salgan de la escuela y vayan directo a trabajar si esa es su opción. Así que muchos de ustedes, yo sé que muchos de las personas que están a través de nuestras plataformas digitales están conscientes de esto y es una realidad que vivimos el día a día. Así que yo creo que pues me gustaría saber esas esos comentarios de todos ustedes a través de nuestras plataformas. Estamos en vivo a través de YouTube, también estamos en vivo en Facebook y estamos en Instagram, así que los invito a que nos acompañen y también en nuestra aplicación móvil WFLA, donde puedes encontrar todas las noticias importantes del día y también vamos a poder encontrar todo lo que diga el gobernador Ron DeSantis en esta conferencia de prensa con todos los detalles. Así que vamos a seguir escuchando qué dice el gobernador en esta conferencia de prensa.
Reinvigorated everything and breathed new life in. And now we're talking about, setting up colonies on the moon. And you've got kind of a space race. The space race in the 50s and 60s was U.S. versus Soviet Union. Now the space race is kind of like, Musk versus Bezos versus all these guys trying to see who can get to the moon, who can set up a colony. Musk obviously wants to eventually go to Mars, but all that's happening right here in this backyard, and that's really, really exciting. So thanks to everybody, and Stasi, come on up.
Bueno, y el gobernador Ron DeSantis terminó su charla ahí en esos momentos mencionando que muchas de las cosas que ocurren en estos momentos, las batallas de ídolos como eh, Bezos y Jeff y Elon Musk, ocurren aquí en el estado de Florida. Vamos a escuchar al secretario de Educación.
Education. If I didn't thank Principal Gonzalez for hosting us, Superintendent Rendell. I see multiple members of the school board here like Matt Susan and Jean Trent and Megan Wright. Thank you for taking such a strong stance when it comes to the walkouts that are disrupting the learning environment here in our schools in Florida. I am seeing across the nation these walkouts that are being huge disruptions. They're leading to student safety concerns. And just this weekend, you have seen the Florida Education Association, the teachers union, had a press conference where there was a speaker. And the speaker gets up and talks about the protests that are taking place across the nation and says that they are irrational, that they are reasonable, and that they are required. Jarred parents across the country, immediate backlash. In the background of this statement were union members here in Florida nodding along with the messaging. Totally inappropriate, totally unacceptable. Yet there was no condemnation from the union. There was no calling out the statement. In fact, they stayed silent. And it wasn't until this weekend where they received national backlash that now they're attempting to change the narrative. This isn't the first time that the FBA has been on the losing side of an issue. You all recall time and time again, they fight parents, they fight students. Just a couple weeks ago, they lost a lawsuit where they sued against the Department of Education because they did not want syllabi to be public for students to be able to review prior to registering for courses. We took them to court, or they took us to court, they lost. You remember in 2020, the teachers union filed a lawsuit because they did not want schools to reopen. The significant learning losses that would have happened here in the state of Florida had they been successful would have been detrimental to our students. Yet because of this governor, we fought back, we won, and students benefited across the state of Florida. By now, one would think that union leadership would recognize that prioritizing their own agenda over what's in the best interest of students simply does not work. But they don't. And that is why I appreciate the leadership of Representative Persons Maleka and Senator Martin championing legislation that is going to strengthen transparency and accountability in unions across the state to ensure that they are focused on student success, not their political agendas, but prioritizing teachers, parents, and students. And so I am grateful for the support of the legislature on this important issue, and I am confident that this common sense reform will bring true accountability and transparency that is needed. And no matter how hard the union tries, we will continue to put students first, which is exactly what we are doing by expanding career and technical education opportunities across the state. In his first days in office, Governor DeSantis issued an executive order with this very big goal in mind, to make Florida #1 in workforce education by 2030. Here in this room, you see the fruits of that labor. If you look around, this room was funded by the Workforce Development Capitalization Grant. Students in this program are equipped with in-demand skills in robotics, automation, fabrication, and systems technology. They gain experience in an industry-aligned environment, operating real manufacturing workflows from design and production to quality control, all while working directly with local industry partners for authentic, career-ready experiences. This
Aquí
program,
estamos
this
escuchando
facility,
al secretario de Educación, Anastasio Stasi Kamutsas, quien en estos momentos está hablando sobre los movimientos de la Unión y él está condenando cada uno de estos, las palabras que está diciendo la Unión. Entonces también está mencionando en esta conferencia de prensa que poniendo al frente a los jóvenes, a los estudiantes del estado de Florida y tal como dice el gobernador Ron DeSantis, su intención, según él en esta conferencia de prensa, es poner en número uno la educación y también el futuro de los estudiantes del estado. El secretario está aquí en estos momentos hablando sobre las necesidades de los estudiantes según el Departamento de Educación.
Since the beginning of this administration, Florida has awarded more than 524,000 rapid workforce credentials. Last year, more than 80,000 rapid credentials were awarded, which is an increase of 5.4% from the year prior. And these credentials, they are directly tied to high-wage, in-demand occupations. Florida has also expanded earn and learn opportunities through registered apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs. As the governor mentioned, that is a record 25,000 active apprentices and pre-apprentices, an increase of 11% year over year. Florida continues to invest in these programs through the Pathways to Career Opportunity grants, which, as the governor mentioned, we're at $1 million, and these funds have supported over 350 apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs, serving more than 20,000 participants. Florida has the most aligned, accountable, and industry-driven workforce education system in the nation, and thanks to Governor DeSantis' leadership, we will continue to strengthen these pathways so that every student has access to programs that prepare them for in-demand careers with wages to support their families. Because of our governor's leadership, Florida set a bold goal to be #1 in workforce education and by 2030, and we achieved it 5 years early. So thank you so much, Governor, for your vision and your leadership. Thank you to the teachers across the state that are making this happen. And most importantly, thank you, students, for your hard work each and every day. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Commissioner, and thank you, Governor. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jennifer Gonzalez, and I am so honored to have Governor DeSantis here with us at Titusville High School. I'm proud to speak here today about career and technical education. Standing here in our space mechatronics classroom, you are seeing more than a lab. You are seeing Florida's workforce in the making. Career and technical education, or CTE, has evolved far beyond the shop classes of the past. Today, Florida CTE programs are aligned with high-demand industries. At Titusville High School, we have 10 high-demand programs available to our students. These include cybersecurity, criminal justice, 911 dispatch, culinary arts, automotive, patient care, foods and nutrition, TV productions, digital design, and space mechatronics. These programs provide students with industry certifications, hands-on experience, and clear pathways to high-wage, high-skill careers. Our students are learning from top instructors that came straight from the industry into the classroom, including a top chef, a registered nurse, and an engineer. For our students, the CTE pathway has made education relevant, engaging, and purposeful. They graduate with not only a high school diploma, but with credentials, confidence, and direction. Last year at Titusville High School, we graduated 302 students. Our students earned a total of 278 industry certifications through a career and technical education course. Many students have graduated from Titusville High School over the years and immediately taken positions as a 911 dispatcher, certified nursing assistant, or even an auto mechanic. For industry, CTE is not just beneficial, it's essential. Florida's economic growth depends on a talent pipeline. Through partnerships with local businesses and internships, our students gain experience that reduces training costs for employers and strengthens workforce readiness. Our partners are paramount to our success. Our students are interacting with up-to-date resources thanks to our partners such as Lockheed Martin and Parrish Medical Center. Starling Ford just recently donated a brand new truck to our automotive program so that our students are working with the most modern vehicle technology. Here in Brevard County, at the heart of the Space Coast, our programs directly support the aerospace and technology sectors that drive our region's economy. Students in this classroom are learning the same foundational skills used right across the river at the Kennedy Space Center. Our students watch rocket launches right from our campus all the time. Now, with our Space Mechatronics program, our students can become a part of industry right after high school. When we invest in career and technical education, we invest in students who are prepared, industries that are strengthened, and communities that thrive. Titusville High School was established in 1927. Next year, we're celebrating our centennial. We have been launching futures at this school for a century. Now we can launch them farther than ever before. Thank you for supporting the future of the Florida's workforce, and thank you for being here today at Titusville High School.
Good morning. It is great to be on the Space Coast, and I wish we'd made Washington, D.C. a little bit more like Florida. This is where the action takes place, and we're just so grateful to have the governor here. And I want to give it a shout out to, of course, our school board members who are doing a fantastic job and meeting the needs of this community. Our community is growing like never before, and it is fantastic to have our school board members who are committed to making sure they are ready to go to the workforce day one. That is a real accomplishment, and it's what education is all about. And I'm so proud to be a part of this team. And I also see Commissioner Altman here and others who are committed to bringing this community together and making it the best place to live in America. Also want to, of course, recognize our superintendent, Mr. Rendell. He has done a fantastic job. He and I worked together recently to bring over $2 million down to Brevard County so Space Coast High School could have the same type of program that the governor is spiking the football about today. So we are excited about that. And what CTE, sometimes we get stuck in acronyms, but it's career technical education. It's making things work again. America is about doers, about accomplishments. And as an educator myself, I am so excited about what's happening here on the Space Coast. And in case you don't know it, our governor is a former teacher. He knows what it's like to be in a classroom, and he understands what those young people are dreaming about every single day. His wife is also educating our community today on healthcare. She is leading what we call the MAHA movement here in Florida, just like RFK Jr. and our president is doing around the country, because we know when our kids are healthy and they're ready to learn, it makes all the difference in the world. And so I wanted to come here today more than anything else to thank a few people. One is, of course, our amazing sheriff who's keeping our community incredibly safe every day. You don't hear about that Minneapolis stuff in Florida because of his work on the front lines. And he makes sure that every single day our kids are safe in school. And that is such a blessing because we're seeing too often in too many parts of the country, they're not looking out for our kids every day. They're not doing all the things that the governor has done in the front line to protect our kids, because he has kids too who are moving through the system. But most importantly today, I want to talk about our governor. And what a difference elections make. What a difference in the fact that leadership truly matters. It was just a few years ago that we were wondering what the future of this community would be like when COVID hit. He kept this state running. He kept Florida at the tip of the spear, even when all the so-called professionals say you shouldn't do this way. This man led by example. I wouldn't mind if he was up in Washington. We can use the help. I promise you that. But it is remarkable what's happening because he leads. And this is what we need so strongly in Washington, let alone here in Florida. We have a person who campaigns and governs the exact same way. That is rare, unfortunately, in American politics today. And we have a governor in that regard. And I'll close with this. We are the Space Coast. And as the governor mentioned last year, over 160 launches right here in the good old USA. And your kids and my kids are going to be getting those jobs in the future because of what's right behind me right now. Not just a job, but a career. And that's what our governor has done. He recognized that just a few years ago, we were relying on the old Soviet Union to get to our own space station. And now the jobs of the future are literally right outside this door. And so I want to applaud our governor for leadership and a person who's willing to stand on principle even when it wasn't popular. And he has made a huge difference to the great state of Florida.
Well, I appreciate everybody. All the comments were great. So thank you guys for doing that. And this is a big day. I mean, you look at this. This is real. This is part of a vision. And look, I was the governor kind of leading. There's a lot of people throughout this state that shared this vision and knew how important it was to be able to equip our young people with the tools they need to succeed. And you're doing it very well here at Titusville High School, very well in Brevard County. And I know we've done things with the grants, but also there have been line items in the budget we've helped you with over the years, and we're happy to do that. And we see the results have been very, very positive. And we're also going to continue doing what we're doing with the universities. I mean, look, I think the fact that we have the lowest tuition for Florida residents is a good thing. I think it means you can go to school and not have to mortgage your future just to pay the tuition. Honestly, it's low enough. You get a part-time job, you could pay the tuition even if you didn't have any scholarship or any parental support at all. And I think that that's something that's really, 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 really good. It's not possible in most universities around this country, of course. It used to be kind of an incentive, maybe. Our schools were not as selective, when I was growing up in terms of the state universities, but you'd have, I had friends, you go to school, don't graduate in 4, stay for another football season, maybe. So that was when, they were winning a lot. We haven't had as much, at least on our state. University of Miami did good, and not private school. But now it's like we want to kind of get you in and get you out. We don't want you to stay in 5. Like, graduate in 3, definitely graduate in 4, because it's ultimately, for us, it's not about making money. It's like these universities are performing a service for our residents. And I think I'm also proud, and there's sometimes some misinformation about this, our undergraduate population, our state universities, 90% of them are Florida residents in state. And then the other 10% is mostly, Americans from the other 49 states. So sometimes people, some of these universities have all these foreign coming in, massive foreign. Ours is small. And we really put an emphasis on using these state universities to benefit Florida families and their kids. And I'm proud of doing that, and we're going to continue doing that going forward. Okay, do we got any questions back there? Yes, sir. Well, look, I mean, people sometimes ask me, well, what do you think it was the best or whatever? Look, I think what I say is, when I became governor, not that Florida was bad. I mean, I was born and raised here. We liked it. But we didn't necessarily have the moxie that we do now of being the free state of Florida, right? And so I think under that comes all this stuff, equipping kids to be able to go into workforce. That gives them freedom to be able to make the most of their God-given talent. Our universities not having $100,000 debt millstone. Those students are going to have the freedom to do well. Of course, I'll have people come up to me to this day saying, if you didn't do what you did during COVID, their businesses would have probably closed. And so the freedom to be able to apply your craft, run your businesses, do all those things, all of that, I think, falls under that envelope. But certainly, I think if you look on education, states are copying what Florida has done almost across the board on all this stuff. And I think that's instructive that we're doing the right things. Yes. Oh, we have an important mission to protect the people of the state of Florida vis-a-vis illegal immigration. And I've been strong on this from day one. And if you look at what we've done, a lot of people forget, we did Operation Vigilant Sentry during Biden's administration for the boats off our coast. Because remember, they were coming from Haiti. Biden didn't have enough Coast Guard ships. And if it wasn't for what we did, you would have probably seen a couple years ago, you'd have seen half of Haiti end up coming on our shores. What did we do? We fortified all the gaps, and just our state vessels, we interdicted almost 20,000 illegal aliens who were then repatriated, to their home countries, Bahamas, Haiti, Cuba, wherever they're coming from. And we were able to do it. Just imagine, had we not done that, to have flooding people just showing up. And the thing is, some of the people that did get through, contraband in the boats, drugs in the boats, all this stuff. That's not what you want. We were able to do that, through our ability to use Division of Emergency Management. You look at what we've done to rescue Floridians in harm's way in foreign countries. Haiti, I mentioned, when that instability, we rescued all these Christian missionaries from Haiti. They had no way to get out. We sent in our guys. They came out. Israel, when Iran was bombing Israel, I had students, Florida students over there. I had church groups over there. I had all these people over there that had no way. The airports were closed, all that. We got them on a boat to Cyprus, and we flew them back. That was all because of our emergency management authority. And then, yes, the processing and staging of detainees so that DHS can deport them. That's been thousands and thousands and thousands of folks. Our facilities, we have probably 2,500 at any given time, but it's constantly rolling over. And so if you didn't have that capacity, guess what? When our guys, Highway Patrol or Wayne's people, pick people up, they bring them to DHS. If DHS doesn't have anywhere to put them, what are they going to do? They're going to release them back into your communities. Is that what you want to see? Illegal aliens released back into the communities? Or do you want to see them removed from your communities like the president promised he would do and like he's trying to do? And so I think that what we've done is really set the standard. In fact, we were down West Palm Beach the other day, and the president's there, I'm there, and Tom Homan is there. And Tom said, Florida is setting the standard. They are doing it. They are better than any other state in helping us. All these, Wayne would have done it anyways, but we had to do legislation to say, you got to be on the team here. We're not going to be Minnesota, okay? We're not going to be Minneapolis. Law's the law, and we're going to enforce the law. And so I think that's been absolutely critical. It has absolutely saved lives. It's made our communities safer, and it's exactly what Republicans always campaign on. These guys go, oh, I'm going to get illegal and I'm so tough around there. And then they get in, and then they don't want to do it sometimes. So I'm one of the ones that said, no, whatever we said we'd do, you can count on us, we're going to do it. So we need to keep that going. I think it would be really bad if you're in a situation where you're not doing it. Now, at the same time, with both the facility we have in Baker up in North Florida and the one that we have with Alligator, people said, oh, is this going to be permanent? I said, no, it's not going to be permanent. DHS doesn't have the capacity at the time. They've now gotten more funding, and I think there's even been press reports, but I know for a fact they are working to build up more processing and staging capacity. If they have adequate capacity, then I'm all for them taking it. We're helping out of necessity. We're helping because if we don't do it, you're going to have a lot of illegal aliens, including criminal aliens, that are going to be released, not because DHS wants to do that, but because they have no place to be able to put them. And so I think it's been instrumental, but it's not just about those current detention operations. It's also about stopping the boats coming in where the Coast Guard can't get to them. That's been hugely successful. It's also been our rescue missions that we've done. You should talk to some of the people. I mean, I greeted them at the airport. These people, I remember a group from North Florida. They brought their church over. Because, you look at these really amazing holy sites. Like this is like you can open the Bible and go through all that. And it's like a big deal to be over there. Well, then you have ballistic missiles raining down. Well, what are you going to do? They called Florida. They called us because they know we make things happen. And I'm proud that we were able to save a lot of people doing that. So all of that, has been a very positive success. And we want to make sure that we'll keep going. And look, I know that, the folks in the legislature have campaigned on this stuff for many, many years. And so I'd be very surprised if they were going to do anything that was going to lead to the release of really significant numbers of criminal aliens and handicap our ability to protect Florida shores. Because, it's much better with Trump as president with the Coast Guard, but they still don't have enough. If you take our people off that, you're going to see more boats landing in the Keys, in Jupiter, and all these places. Why would we want to do that? And what are you going to say to somebody if they end up getting victimized by one of those folks, who are coming? And I think we've really done a good job of deterring this. All that instability in Haiti a year or two ago, remember, people were saying there was going to be a flood. New York Times, Florida's going to be overwhelmed, all these stuff. And it didn't happen. Was that luck? No, it was not luck. It was because they knew if they got in those boats and came to our way, they'd be stopped. Period, end of story. And we were able to do that. So we got to keep doing all those things. I hope DHS ramps up to where they have their own standalone capacity. We'll still be helping in the field like we're doing, for sure. But if they're able to assume 100% of that mission, great. I mean, they should do that. But they did not have the resources when this administration started. I know they're trying to build it up. And Florida had even less compared to a lot of other states per capita. We were one of the lowest. So they've got a lot that they'd have to build up here in the state of Florida. But I anticipate that, that'll likely happen. It's not ready yet, but it will likely happen probably within the next year. All right. Thanks, everybody. God bless.